We are at the Audioholics Smart House, boots on the ground. We got Brad Pickens from Home Theater Gamer, the Kaleidescape Terra Prime Strato C movie package. That's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Hey folks, I'm Gene Delasella with Audioholics. We got Brad in the house. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Gene.
Awesome to have you here, Brad. I love collaborating with you. I wanted to have you here because I've got a Kaleidescape in the system. I wanted you to experience it firsthand. I know there's going to be comments down below of people saying this thing is too expensive. You could build your own server for a lot cheaper. I hear this comments all the time. It's almost as bad as when people have exotic cables. But I'm here to tell you, unlike the expensive exotic cable snake oil stuff, the Kaleidescape is a real product. It's a tangible product that you can experience, and it can enhance your entire movie watching and music listening experience visually and audibly. But the entry fee isn't cheap. So the package that we have now is the Terra Prime with the Strato C. It's a little under $9,000. So you got the movie player and you've got the 8 terabyte solid state drive. So Brad, I wanted you to talk a little bit about the advantage of solid state over a regular hard drive, because they offer both versions of that.
Right. So like a solid state drive or SSD is basically instant access. It's quiet. You don't have to worry about noise. Now, a regular hard drive, which is a spinning platter drive, so there's moving parts. So there is a tendency for those to be louder because you actually have moving parts. They have limited bandwidth, which is something I didn't mention with SSDs, but the write speed, read speed on a regular hard disk is much lower than that of an SSD. So an SSD has a much higher, basically overhead, we'll call it.
Yeah.
Which is why when you look, you can actually have up to 25 simultaneous zones on Kaleidescape playing a movie off of an SSD where you're limited to just 5 on a regular hard drive.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also the downloads are much faster with the solid state. I think when I was looking at the specs, you could download a full 4K movie through the Kaleidescape if you have an SSD and a fast Ethernet connection in 4 minutes on a solid state drive, whereas with the hard drive, it's a little over double that. It's like 8 minutes or more. And with the hard drive that we have, or the solid state drive, we have the 8 terabyte, you could store up to about 125 4K movies. And of course, you could store much more movies if they're not in 4K. You could also put the movies in the cloud. So if you decide that you ran out of space and you don't want to buy another hard drive, you can put it in the cloud, you can recall those movies, put it back on the server, take the other ones off. Now, part of the entry fee why Kaleidescape is so expensive is they use enterprise-grade hardware. It's not like your off-the-shelf parts. And the reason why they use enterprise-grade hardware is its longevity, it lasts longer, it's more reliable. Everything about the Kaleidescape is about the product lasting and enduring. And in fact, when you were talking about the noise, I checked that. Anytime I add a component into this theater, my whole purpose in this theater is to have the very best audio performance, video as well, but audio is really important to me, and I don't want to add devices that add noise. And I stuck my ear up to the Terra Prime, and it's virtually silent. I mean, it's really quiet. You definitely can't hear anything from where we're sitting. And like you said, the hard drives, with hard drives, you can hear spinning. So that could be a problem if you're really close to it. But most people that are setting up a Kaleidescape system are going to put it in a media rack. It's going to be away from the listening area anyways. There's a lot of different ways to configure these products. So the one I have is it's the entry level one in terms of storage capacity. And I'm only doing one zone. You have different options. You could put a Strato C in each zone, which is an expensive route. It could add up over time. Or you could do like an AV Pro Edge HDMI matrix, and you could feed off of that into different zones in your house as well. So there's different options. I know that upscale clients like yachts, for example, they'll use the solid state drives. They'll have multiple Strato C players in there as well. That's the kind of client that does these kind of expanded systems. So if you want more storage in a solid state drive, they have a 31 terabyte drive, which will give you like 500 movies in 4K. And if you want more storage than that, you go to the hard drive, which is 96 terabytes, and you get more storage there. Before we get into the more specifics on the different features, I just want to go over your experience, because we watched a couple of demo clips here. We watched Top Gun Maverick, which, to be honest with you, I saw Top Gun Maverick in the theater and I liked it. they did justice as a sequel to the first Top Gun movie that we grew up with as kids. But when I watched it in here, it felt like a very cinematic experience to me. Now, I compared it to streaming because I put it on stream as well. And to me, the stream version was kind of lifeless. Why don't you give your experience on your demo in here of what you heard when we did, because we did 2 demo scenes. We did the scene where it was like the Mach 10 scene.
Yep, the kind of opening of the movie.
Right, and then we did the dogfight scene. Why don't you talk a little bit about your experience when you listened to that in this room?
Sure. I mean, like you, I had experience with the streaming version, and we had talked about it, and it sounded lifeless, like you said, very compressed. I almost had to crank the volume up to even like get any activity in the mix.
Yeah.
Whereas like here is a completely different ballgame. It was very, very dynamic. Like the bass was amazing. I felt like there was very little bass in the actual streaming version.
Yes.
This actually was probably, if I had to guess, was bit for bit the same as what comes on the disc. If not, maybe it might be a slightly different file. I'm not sure.
So sometimes Kaleidescape has access to even higher bandwidth versions of it that you can't fit on an optical disc, and that's another advantage there as well. But yeah, like when you stream a lot, and I'm not bashing streaming because 90% of what I watch is streamed content, right? This is a reference theater. We've got active RBH SBTRS system in here. We've got 5 subwoofers, a 21-inch infrasonic subwoofer. We've got, a Storm audio processing. We've got a Severtson 150-inch acoustically transparent screen and a Sony 6000 projector. We've got the reference material to build a world-class theater, so you want to have the source to be able to keep up with that. And going from like an Apple TV and watching these movies to a Kaleidescape is a worldly different experience.
Absolutely. I mean, we watched those 2 scenes, and both scenes were just probably the best I've ever heard it, honestly, in a theater. And I've heard it in quite a few different theaters over the years since, it came out. And this was probably the most impactful experience I've had watching it in here. And I wasn't even sitting in like the best seat.
Yeah, you were sitting to the far
I was sitting all the way over there. And so
you weren't in the mother-in-law seat.
No, well, thankfully. But yeah, it sounded like dialogue was crystal clear. Like I said, the dynamics were insane. I mean, obviously you have, a top of the line setup in here. So that helps things. But like, it was just so... I keep going back to the word dynamic. It really was like the highs, the lows, the mids, like everything was dialed in perfectly. It sounded like, and then you kind of dropped the bombshell on me. It's like, yeah, I don't really have any room correction done. Like I'm not using any like Odyssey or anything like that in here.
No, everything is manual PEQ right now. I am going to be doing direct art in the future. I'm just working on having them tweak the algorithm for the infrasonic bass because I want to make sure I preserve all my infrasonic bass into my main speakers as well as the subs. But yeah, my experience with going from Top Gun streaming to Top Gun on Kaleidescape is you hear the heights better, right? And I've noticed with a lot of streaming content, they crunch the bandwidth to the height channels. And people complain they don't have a good Atmos mix or Atmos is no good. It has nothing to do with Atmos being no good. Atmos is an incredibly excellent immersive format that's highly expandable to whatever channel count you have. But if you don't have lossless audio like you're getting with the Kaleidescape does Dolby Atmos and does DTS-X, full lossless bandwidth. You don't get that with streaming, unfortunately. Streaming uses Dolby Digital Plus, and it has compromises in that. And you've heard similar when we listen to 2-channel music versus spatial audio streaming, you can hear that there's some compression. As good as spatial audio is, there's compression when you're streaming it. So the interesting thing is I got the Hans Zimmer concert on the Kaleidescape, and just listening to that as opposed to it being lossy, listening to it in true HD is just a whole different experience and effortless dynamics, the bass. That's the thing is I don't want to miss the bass, and you don't miss the bass with the Kaleidescape. So just the scene where Tom Cruise, the Maverick, is leading the other pilots through that canal, they're going to bomb that target. As he's pulling back up, you could see the little sweat beads dripping off of his head, sliding down his head that you just don't see in that level of detail when you're streaming it. Just those little things you notice when you rewatch movies going from streaming to uncompressed Kaleidescape level quality.
Absolutely. It's just a completely different experience. And the jury's out, is it that much better than the disc? I don't know, but it looks great.
Look, optical disc, I love. I have an Oppo UDP 205 I'll take to the grave, and I've got probably 200 titles on Blu-ray, and I'm keeping those, and I'm probably not going to rebuy those on Kaleidescape, and that is reference material. But a lot of people don't want to have discs in an area where they have to store them, and it's getting harder and harder to buy the discs, right? Because Best Buy stopped carrying Blu-rays. Now you have to buy them mostly online. It's convenient to have everything on a server. The graphical interface on Kaleidescape is absolutely wonderful. All the art covers, sliding between them. The fact that you could do so many cool things like the features and going through play scenes. In fact, we put on Dune 2. So we watched 2 scenes on Dune 2, the Freeman test and the battle assault. And the first one was, I thought it was a really cool, immersive experience seeing those people get kind of sliced up on the desert. Wasn't a lot of bass in that scene. I was like, oh man, maybe I need to turn my bass levels up. But then we watched that second scene. All I can remember just watching that scene was I felt like I was in it. And I don't want to sound cheesy, but I forgot I was sitting in my own theater chair and I was just experiencing the movie. It was a visceral experience, both visually and tactile. The amount of bass and the clarity of it. And the thing about that is you can listen at reference level and it was effortless. There wasn't any compression. I mean, you talk about how you felt because, again, this is the first time you've experienced Dune 2 in here. What was your reaction to that?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said experience. And not to sound cheesy, again, but there's a difference between just merely watching a movie and then experiencing it. And that first clip that we watched was the Battle at Dawn.
Yeah.
And it was cool, but it didn't really, like you said, didn't have bass. You're kind of like watching it. This second clip, you were like sucked into the movie. Like you were there.
Yeah.
And it was insane. Like I was sitting over there going, wow. I know I said wow out loud a couple times. I feel like I couldn't hear it because we had it up pretty loud. What? Exactly.
And, the download experience is pretty cool because you could do it from your phone. You could control the Kaleidescape from your phone. The app is very intuitive. My only gripe is anytime you download a movie, you have to re-log in your credentials. That kind of annoys me each time you do that. I think there's 14,000 titles, so the selection is pretty extensive. Personally, I wish they had more music selections. I think the future of music is not only spatial audio, but the visual of it as well. There's so many concerts I would love to download. I'm a huge Peter Gabriel fan. I'd love to have all his stuff because he's done some great tours. I'd love to have that in Atmos and 4K. So as a music person, I'd like to see more music represented in the Kaleidescape. But the download experience it's a fun experience. You go through the titles. It even gives you recommended related movies you could download. It's just seamless. Like you select what you want to download, you hit the button, you have your credentials in, so you buy it. And within 4 or 5 minutes, it's on your server and you can watch it. And the cool thing about that too is you get those movies faster on Kaleidescape than you could buy in them. So some of these movies are still in the theater and you could buy them. We wanted to go see the new Ghostbusters movie, and my wife's like, let's go to the movies and watch Ghostbusters. I'm like, wait a minute, it's already on Kaleidescape. Yeah, it's $30 or $40, but if I go to the movies with a family of 4 and get popcorn and everything else, I'm going to spend $200.
Yep.
So to me, it's worth buying the movie and watching it here and having the pause feature because I like to take bathroom breaks.
Well, then if you really like the movie, you can watch it over and over again.
Yeah, and that's what's really cool about it. There's just there's endless possibilities here with Kaleidescape. And if you want to get the very best out of your system, this is the way to do it. The entry price isn't cheap, like I said. I know there's people that say they could build a PLEX server, but you maybe talk a little bit about, the complications of building your own server as opposed to buying something like this.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is more accessible than it ever has been to do that stuff. But at the same time, you're going to run into a lot of headaches. Networks issues, like if you're maybe tech savvy, but you don't know much about networking, there are issues that you run into there. You can do the basic route where you just buy a big hard drive, put movies on it, and put it on like something like an NVIDIA Shield. But still, you have to get those movies. Like you have to rip those movies, and that's a whole process in and of itself. You're going to have a lot of kind of headaches and trial and error with. Again, it's simpler than it has been in the past, but you're still going to invest time and money into doing this.
So another really cool thing about Kaleidescape that you can't do necessarily on your own is the metadata. So the Kaleidescape movie experts actually annotate each movie with data such as screen size, end credit, intermission cues. This allows their players to integrate with your home automation to dim lights, close shades, adjust seating when the titles roll, the automatic screen masking to match the ratio of each film. The immersive experience of streaming services simply can't achieve that, and you can't really do that on your own. And that's what's really cool about it, is especially the masking feature. So in this system, I just have a 16:9, but if you have a 2:3:5:1, and there's movies like what is it, Christopher Nolan, where he changes aspect ratios in Justice League, the Kaleidescape will see that, it will detect that, and it'll automatically change the masking of your system. And that's a really slick feature. So if you really want to do impressive cinematic demos, or you want to have the very best representation of that movie in your house, the Kaleidescape's going to be the way to do that for you. So on the video side with Kaleidescape, it supports full 4K HDR10. Now, there's no Dolby Vision support yet as far as I know, but most people that are putting a Kaleidescape in their home theaters are doing it with front projection. And Brett, are there any front projectors that support Dolby Vision?
Not that I'm aware of. There might be one out there, but other than that, we're not seeing any.
Yeah, I don't think that's really an issue of concern, but I just wanted to at least bring that up to attention. So guys, I'm enjoying this experience. I'm going to keep this thing at least until Christmas time. I'm hoping to keep it longer if possible. I'm going to do regular updates when I download different movies, and maybe I'll have you back on, and we'll have you come over to some viewing events, and we'll just talk about our experience. We'll give you guys updates on our favorite demo movies on the Kaleidescape, our favorite experiences here. So if you like this video, please hit the thumb up, hit subscribe. Don't forget about our channel partner too. So Dream Media made this all possible. They set us up with this unit. If you're into a Kaleidescape and you want to get consultation from them, please hit the affiliate links down below. Don't forget about our Patreon channel at patreon.com/Audioholics. We appreciate your support. You get direct access to me if you want to suggest video topics. And until next time, my friends, keep listening. We are in the Audioholics Smart House, boots on the ground. We got Brad Pipkins from Home Theater Gamer. We are going to be talking about, because we are well, like even just the scene when Tom Cruise they're going through that canal where they're going to bomb that target, and then they're trying to avoid the missile silos, right?
Yeah.
You can see the little sweat beads dripping off of his Scientologist head.